At Amma Patel and at Dan Thompson sit under the big mango tree behind the school, solving difficult math problems together. At Amma Patel bites her lip, her eyebrows knitted in concentration, while at Dan Thompson chuckles and teases her about looking funny when she's thinking too hard. At Amma Patel playfully snaps back, pretending to be angry, and they both burst into laughter. They share their dreams, fears, and family stories, with at Amma Patel expressing her sadness about her father's strictness and at Dan Thompson empathizing with her. They finish each other's sentences and understand each other's jokes, giving each other nicknames. The scene transitions to Hilltop High, a prestigious school where at Amma Patel arrives in a shiny black limousine, stepping out looking like a princess. Her uniform is spotless and her shoes sparkle, attracting the attention of students around her. In contrast, Dan Thompson walks for an hour to reach the school, wearing a faded uniform and old shoes, but with his head held high. The students at Hilltop High are depicted in various activities, showcasing the divide between the wealthy and the less fortunate. In the classroom, at Amma Patel and at Dan Thompson compete fiercely in academics. At Amma Patel comes first in mathematics, and the class cheers, but the following week at Dan Thompson beats her in science, earning his place at the top of the board. Their voices rise above the others during class debates, filled with playful insults and sharp retorts. The other students watch in awe as their rivalry unfolds, unaware of the deeper feelings developing between them. On a rainy afternoon, Amma Patel struggles to carry her project materials to the car, her hands slipping as the rain pours down. Dan Thompson watches her from a window, hesitating at first but ultimately deciding to help. He runs over to her and together they carry the materials to her car, laughing at how silly they look drenched in the rain. This moment marks a turning point in their relationship, showcasing their growing bond. In this scene, Amma Williams and Dan Carter share a moment outside the school gate, laughing and talking. Their playful banter reveals a growing friendship that is hidden from the world. The scene captures the essence of their relationship as they begin to notice each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. The atmosphere is light-hearted, yet there is an underlying tension as they are aware of their social differences. This scene includes the following shots. 1. At Amma Williams' This scene unfolds in at Amma Williams's home, where her father confronts her about laughing with Dan Carter. The tension is palpable as Amma Williams enters the living room, her heart racing. Her father's voice is sharp and filled with anger, emphasizing the class divide between them. The scene captures Amma Williams's internal struggle as she tries to defend her friendship while feeling the weight of her father's expectations. The following shots are included. 1. At Amma Williams entering the living room, head bowed. 2. Close-up of her father's furious expression. 3. At Amma Williams' face showing heartbreak as she tries to explain. 4. Her father's hand raised to silence her. Amma Williams and Dan Carter meet secretly under a large mango tree, where they share their fears and dreams. This scene highlights their deepening bond and the emotional weight of their friendship. Amma Williams expresses her sorrow over her father's disapproval, while Dan Carter reveals his struggles with poverty. The scene includes the following shots. 1. Amma Williams sitting beside Dan Carter, her expression apologetic. In this scene, Amma Williams decides to fail her entrance exams on purpose to avoid leaving Dan Carter behind. The emotional weight of her decision is palpable as she contemplates her future. The scene captures her determination and the depth of her feelings for Dan Carter. The following shots are included. 1. At Amma Williams sitting at a desk, staring blankly at the exam paper. 2. Close-up of her hand trembling as she grips the pen. 3. At Amma Williams leaving most questions blank, her expression resolute. 4. A shot of her father looking confused and concerned when she reveals her failure. Amma Khan stands in the living room, trembling but silent as her father, Mr. Khan, confronts her about her future. His fists are clenched and he demands to know if she is throwing away her future for Dan Patel. Amma Khan's heart is heavy and she turns her face away, tears filling her eyes. Mr. Khan takes away her privileges, grounding her and locking her away like a prisoner, but Amma Khan remains resolute in her love for Dan Patel. Dan Patel is seen studying late at night in a dimly lit room, surrounded by stacks of books. He works hard, reading by candlelight, his eyes burning with determination. He borrows books and practices diligently, his hands tired and his head aching. He receives encouraging notes from Amma Khan through a mutual friend, which warm his heart and motivate him to keep going. On the day of the exam, Adnan Patel walks into the exam hall, his hands sweaty and heart-pounding. He recalls his promise to his mother and Amma Khan's belief in him, whispering to himself, "I can do this." He answers every question with confidence, his mind sharp as a blade. When the results are announced, Adnan Patel's name is on the list, and he celebrates with his mother, Mrs. Patel, who hugs him tightly, tears of joy in her eyes. Amma Khan rushes to her father, Mr. Khan, her eyes sparkling with hope as she begs to take the exam again. Her father's expression narrows with suspicion, questioning her sudden change of heart. Amma Khan keeps her voice soft, saying she wants to make him proud. Mr. Khan's anger melts, and he reluctantly agrees, stating it will be her last chance. Amma Khan takes her exam with ease, her pen flying across the paper as she answers every question confidently. When the results are announced, her name shines at the top of the list. Mr. Khan is proud, but unaware of the truth that Amma Khan had failed on purpose to wait for Adnan Patel. Amma Khan and Adnan Patel are finally together at university, but tension arises as Adnan Patel begins to change. He stops waiting for her after lectures and avoids sitting with her during lunch. Amma Khan feels confused and hurt, trying to reach out to him with jokes and study invitations, but Adnan Patel's responses are cold and distant. One evening, Amma Khan finds Adnan Patel sitting alone in the campus garden, staring at the sky. She approaches him, asking why he is avoiding her. Adnan Patel's shoulders stiffen as he mutters that he is not avoiding her. Amma Khan, with tears in her eyes, confronts him about their lost connection. In a lush garden filled with vibrant flowers and greenery, Amma Johnson and Dan Carter engage in a heart-wrenching conversation. Dan Carter's jaw tightens as he expresses his feelings of inadequacy, stating they belong to different worlds. Amma Johnson, with tears in her eyes, insists that she loves him regardless of their social differences. Dan Carter struggles with his emotions, feeling the weight of societal expectations. As their conversation intensifies, Dan Carter ultimately pushes Amma Johnson away, leaving her heartbroken. This scene captures the essence of their love and the barriers they face. In Dan Carter's apartment, Amma Johnson arrives with a basket of food, excited to surprise him. However, she overhears laughter and Dan Carter's voice expressing admiration for Sonia Patel. As she leans closer to the door, her heart races with confusion and dread. When she peeks inside, she witnesses Dan Carter and Sonia Patel locked in a passionate kiss, shattering her heart. The basket falls from her hands and she turns away, overwhelmed by pain and betrayal, running out of the building and into the street. Amma Johnson collapses under a large mango tree, her heart shattered after witnessing Dan Carter's betrayal. She sits on the ground, shoulders shaking with sobs as she reflects on her love for Dan Carter and the pain of his actions. The scene captures her emotional turmoil as she cries out in despair, feeling lost and abandoned. The mango tree, once a symbol of their love, now stands as a reminder of her heartbreak. Sonia pretends to care for Dan Carter, always by his side, comforting him with fake tears and soft words. "I'm here for you, Dan Carter. I understand your pain," she whispers, wrapping her arms around him. Dan Carter, whose heart is weak, begins to believe Sonia is the one who truly loves him. One evening, as they sit together in his apartment, Sonia leans in and kisses him softly. Dan Carter is surprised but doesn't push her away. He closes his eyes and kisses her back, filled with confusion and pain. Amma Williams witnesses the betrayal and heartbreak as she sees Dan Carter with Sonia. She runs away, her chest aching, feeling her world falling apart. For days she locks herself in her room, crying until her eyes are swollen and her voice is hoarse. She cannot eat or sleep, feeling her heart shattered. Despite her parents' worries, Aunt Amma Williams refuses to tell them about Aunt Dan Carter or the pain she is going through. "I'll handle it alone," she whispers to herself, wiping her tears. After days of crying, Aunt Amma Williams stands in front of her mirror, her eyes red and puffy, and vows, "I won't cry anymore." She decides to focus on her studies, aiming to be the smartest girl in the university, locking away her love for Aunt Dan Carter. Aunt Amma Williams returns to school, her face cold and her heart guarded. She ignores Aunt Dan Carter and pretends he doesn't exist. Although she laughs with her friends, her laughter is hollow and her smiles do not reach her eyes. Aunt Amma Williams becomes the smartest girl in her class, earning the pride of her teachers and envy from her classmates. Despite her success, her heart remains broken, and she struggles to forget Aunt Dan Carter, whose face haunts her dreams and whose betrayal burns in her soul. Aunt Amma Williams's parents arrange her marriage to a wealthy man named Chai Patel. Her mother expresses hope for Aunt Amma Williams's happiness, but Aunt Amma Williams forces a smile, feeling indifferent about marriage. The wedding is grand, filled with music, dancing, and laughter. Aunt Amma Williams wears a beautiful white gown, her face covered with a bright smile, but behind it, her heart is cold and empty. As she walks down the aisle, her hands shake, and she searches the crowd, secretly wishing to see Aunt Dan Carter one last time, but he is nowhere to be found. After the wedding, Aunt Amma Williams moves into Aunt Chai Patel's mansion, which is big and beautiful with sparkling chandeliers and expensive furniture, but it feels cold, much like Aunt Chai Patel's heart. Initially, Aunt Chai Patel is sweet and charming, showering Aunt Amma Williams with gifts and praise, but soon his true colors emerge. He becomes cold and distant, openly cheating and bringing other women into their home. One night, Aunt Amma Williams catches him with another woman, and her heart sinks. "Aunt Chai Patel, who is this?" she asks, her voice trembling. Aunt Chai Patel's response is cruel, revealing his lack of love for her. Aunt Amma Williams' heart shatters as she realizes the truth about her marriage. Aunt Chai Patel hits her during an argument and she is left in shock, feeling fear and disbelief. "Aunt Chai Patel, you hit me," she cries, but he responds coldly, mocking her pain. Aunt Amma Williams' heart aches as she feels trapped in a loveless marriage, her dreams shattered. She endures the pain for months, hiding her bruises behind makeup and fake smiles. After enduring months of abuse, Aunt Amma Williams gathers her courage and leaves Aunt Chai Patel, ending the marriage in a bitter divorce. Her parents are furious, expressing their disappointment and anger at her decision. Aunt Amma Williams feels heavy with guilt but stands firm, explaining that she could not stay with someone who was cruel. The confrontation with her father reveals the clash between her desire for independence and her family's expectations. The scene opens with Aunt Amma Patel reflecting on her life, feeling trapped in a cycle of failed marriages. She recalls her marriage to Aunt Desmond Carter, a wealthy man who controlled her every move. Aunt Desmond Carter's grip tightens on her arm as he whispers possessively, "You belong to me." Aunt Amma Patel feels like a prisoner in her own home, isolated and miserable. The scene transitions through her subsequent marriages, each ending in disaster, highlighting her loneliness and despair. The emotional weight of her experiences culminates in her realization that she misses Dan, the boy she loved. She pleads with her parents to let her return to him, but they refuse, blaming her for her failed marriages. The scene shifts to a morning in Aunt Amma Patel's parents' home. Aunt Amma Patel hears a loud scream from her parents' room and rushes in to find her mother, Aunt Mrs. Patel, lying on the floor, pale and shaking. Her father, Aunt Mr. Patel, is panicking, desperately trying to lift her. He shouts for a doctor, his voice breaking with fear. They rush her to the best hospital in the city, where doctors express confusion over her serious condition. Aunt Amma Patel's father, desperate for answers, takes her to multiple hospitals, but no one can help. The scene captures the growing tension and fear as Aunt Amma Patel watches her mother's health deteriorate. The next morning, Aunt Amma Patel and her father travel to a neighboring town to see Dr. Dan, a renowned specialist. They enter a large office filled with medical books and a big desk. As they wait, Aunt Amma Patel's heart races when she hears the nurse announce at Dr. Dan. When he turns around, she is shocked to see the boy she once loved, now a successful doctor. The atmosphere is tense as her father, filled with shame, pleads for Dan to save his wife's life. The scene captures the emotional reunion and the weight of their past.